Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on the Joy News Pulse with me, Oreku Ampofo. We'll be looking at the Ghana Premier League and getting ready for week 26 fixtures. There's been some controversies, and there's a possibility RTU may not be playing. We'll be getting explanations later, but week 26 in the Ghana Premier League has begun, and that's Accra Lions versus Heart of Folk. Heart of Oak currently lead by 2-0 thanks to goals from Daniel Efriye-Bani in the first half and then Ejenim Boateng, who joined from Mediama in the summer. And so Heart of Oak currently winning by 2-0 and would return to winning ways after an unexpected 1-1 draw against the Elmina Sharks last week. On Saturday, there'll be one game between Great Olympics and Ashanti Gold. And then on Sunday, we have King Faisal traveling away to Dreams FC, who have a new manager in Ignatius Ofosuse, who once managed 11 Wonders and then moved to Mediama for just less than 10 games, after which he was sacked. And his appointment means that Karim Zito would now head into a consultancy role as Oseifosu becomes the manager of the Still Believe boys. At home, will be BBNE Gold Stars as they face 11 Wonders. Berekum Chelsea host Adriana Stars, and Wafa continue to pursue their great escape from relegation as they travel all the way to Takwa to face Mediama. Elmina Sharks would be at home against RTU, who we are not too sure would be able to play that game due to financial constraints. Asante Kotoko are back home and would look to return to winning ways after losing in Tamale against RTU. This time round, they'll be at home against Legon Cities. And then Bechem United, who collapsed against Wonders in the last 11 minutes, conceding 3 goals to lose 3-2, would also look to grab a win when they face Kerala United. Well, joining me in studio is Joy Sports, Joel Bote. And Joel, Heart of Oak leading 2-0 against Accra Lions. Is that a surprising result for you?
Personally, that's not a surprising result. I think Heart of Oak needed their results because they've struggled this season. And playing against Accra Lions, it's one that many expected them to get the results. And so they getting the win surprises no one, actually. 2-0 is actually a good scoreline so far, and hopefully they're able to better their goal scoring record so far this season.
Well, they get into the top 4, but they're still miles away from Asante Kotoko. It almost looked like an impossible task catching their rivals at this moment. Would you believe that a second spot suffices for a club like Accra Heart of Oak, or you think the focus still remains to the FA Cup, which they're in the semi-finals?
I think the focus should be in the FA Cup to get a title, because that then still gives them something to hold on to, that they've gone through a season and they still have something to show for. Finishing second, no one really remembers who finishes as runner-up in any competition. It may be good for other teams that usually don't get to that position, but for a club like Accra Heart of Oak, the target should and always be the title. But unfortunately, with the gap with Kumasi Asante Kotoko lead, and it looks close to impossible. So second place should not be the focus. If they're able to get it, fair enough. But then they should try and focus and get the FA Cup title for themselves.
And there's been talks about Samuel Boadu. We had Charles Taylor come out earlier this weekend say that he doesn't mind what's happened this season. Boadu should be given a 10-year contract because of the job that he did last year, and he believes that continuity would bring more success because he's the man cut out for Heart of Oak. It's an opinion that hasn't been truly welcomed well by quite a number of Heart of Oak fans who are not pleased with the former Mediama's coach's, his output this season. Where do you stand in this? Do you think that Boadu is still the man going forward for Heart of Oak and perhaps needs to shape a few other things, or they need to look at considering someone else for the role next season?
When it comes to football, it's a results-based, a results-driven game. And we know that every decision that's taken by management is surely due to either results or possibly things that happen in terms of relationships and other factors. But looking at what Samuel Boadu has done in his tenure, covering this season and last season, it's difficult to say you're going to sack a coach based on the fact that you feel he's done totally poor in a season. Yes, earlier in the season, they started poorly, but if you look at how they've progressed, the trajectory has always been the top, and they've been climbing up the ladder. Unfortunately, they've struggled in away games, and that has been a problem for them And also goal scoring has also been a difficult thing for them. So judging from Taylor's comments, you could tell that he's looking more of a long-term project for Hasselhoff, where they could come back or rise to the top and dominate the league for years. But then it's difficult to tell because looking at what other clubs do in the Ghana Premier League, it's purely results-driven. If the coach is not performing 4 or 5 games consecutively, they usually get rid of him and get someone in just to get to a level where they're able to achieve what they need to achieve. So Charles Taylor's comments are purely on long-term basis, and I believe that's fair enough for him. But for me, it should always be on what the coach can get you for the season that stands at the moment.
And you look over to the other side, that's the Hearts of Oak's rivals, Asante Kotoko. It looks like it's only a matter of time before they are crowned champions, not just because of what they've done this season, but because of what the teams in and around them have done. On the weekend, when they dropped points in Tamale, none of the top 6 teams won. Do you think it all but confirms Asante Kotoko would be champions in a matter of time because the teams around them are just not pushing hard enough?
With regards to the teams surrounding them, I believe they've not played to the level that Kumasi Asante Kotoko have been playing to. So if they are not able to get results against teams that are on their level, then I don't know how well they can match up to what Kumasi Asante Kotoko brings. We've seen Kumasi Asante Kotoko play in games consecutively and get wins in fabulous fashion, just as their name goes. So you can just give them the praise and say this season is almost a done deal. Even though there are a few games left, it's close to they lifting the title. They also would wish they could get other titles, but focusing on just the Ghana Premier League, we can just judge by what they've done and say they deserve the title this season, and no team has been able to compete in any other form.
And lastly, before we wrap up, Frank Mbella, 17 goals. Doesn't look like anyone is catching him. There's been controversial takes on his importance and how crucial he's been for Asante Kotoko. Is he your player of the season? And what do you think about the talks that, the comparisons, especially with Eric Bekwe and the former Ghana Premier League legends? Where do you think he falls in all of this?
Mbella being a foreigner, I must give him credit. Not many have done what he's done so far, and it's remarkable. You can only give him praise because as a striker, we've seen strikers get 10 goals, 12 goals, but for him to go that far, 17, that's great. And so looking at what Kumasi Asante Kotoko have achieved this season, you could tell that Mbella's goals have played a crucial role, and he deserves all the praise for it. And I can go as far and say, yes, for Kotoko, he deserves to be the player of the season for Kotoko. But for other teams, there have been players that have really stepped up in terms of what they've done for their clubs. And so let's wait for the season to end and see, in comparison with other teams, what he's done in terms of achievements. But for me, in terms of Kotoko, he is the player of the season for them.
All right, thank you very much, Joel. Accra Hearts of Oak are currently playing at the Accra Sports Stadium and are leading Accra Lions by 2-0. Thanks to goals from Daniel Banier-Friye and then Ejenim Boateng. A victory that will send the Phobians back into the top 4 of the Ghana Premier League. My name is Ore Kuampofo, and if you want some more sports updates, you can check our website on myjoyonline/sports, or you can follow us on social media at Joy Sports GH on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And that's your sports for now.